quorum. Should we go ahead and approve the minutes? Okay. You want to go ahead and approve the minutes from last meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from last month's August 27th meeting. Motion to approve.
2 seconds. We started a meeting, Andy.
Oh, I'm good. Go ahead.
Lucy just made a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting. 2 seconds.
I'll second. This is Andy.
Okay, Andy seconds. Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, passes, carries. Okay, so my comment for this evening, I am taking over for Kelly DiBenedetto. She couldn't be here this evening. She is over a golf team and they were supposed to play on this last Saturday, but because of the rain, it was canceled. And they postponed it to today. So she's on the golf course this evening with the team. So she couldn't be here tonight. And I would like to remind the audience that this is a bilingual meeting. So if you have a comment, please make sure that you wait and allow the interpreter to finish the previous message before speaking. Okay? And I'm ready to turn it over for the superintendent report.
Just checking in to make sure I'm in the sight line for the cameras for our live stream. Good evening. This is our September board meeting, and we just previously had a board meeting in August. So here we are 3 weeks later. It's good to see you all. This is our agenda for this evening. Governor Braun has been out to visit the school since our last board meeting, so I will cover that this evening. And as I mentioned previously, I will give an update of the current budget and allow you for some questions. I also do have some information for our student data follow-up. There are some overall scores. We've included IAM results and a few follow-up items from last month, and then some general updates that I'll be sharing since the last meeting. So that is our agenda. Always a reminder about our vision and statement. So Governor Braun was out August 28th, actually the very next morning after our board meeting. And after that visit, there were a variety of people that approached me that questioned why he was visiting. And I just wanted to share that it was an outstanding visit. It was very positive. I did not get a lot of advance notice that he was coming out. He wanted to meet with me as the new superintendent of ISD. And there was that potential for a tour after our meeting. We had a great 30-minute session where I was able to talk about our school. And it was great to share my pride in this school. We've been around for 183 years. We serve 87 school districts and about 30 counties across the state. I talked about our student population. And I mentioned the budget, of course, as well, and the challenges. And he did acknowledge that. He was aware that that's been a challenge for us. I did commend his vision of establishing the verticals for me as a superintendent. Over the last couple of months, I have been able to work very closely with the education division and have had constant communication with them, which I have appreciated. And so as I have been assessing the budget cuts, I did mention to him there are still some areas of need and that there are areas that I'll continue to assess and monitor our spending and the services we're able to provide. Obviously, I did mention that I recognize the need for a little more money in our budget, but we ended with a tour. And it was just a walking tour. I was able to walk him through the facilities. He didn't have the opportunity to really go into the classroom, but he was excited to come back and visit again, maybe later on this year, and meet some of our students. So I will be following up in a later time with that. I was able to highlight our academic bowl achievements, and he was highly impressed with that he could see that it's not a one-off, but that we have a legacy of doing well in that tournament. And he also really appreciated seeing our athletic successes in Caskey Gym. So not just at a local level, but also at a national level as well. And that we have had some sectional championships in there. And then he saw our early childhood preschool playground as well. So it was about an hour visit and it went very well. I gave a positive message about our school and he said he would continue to support us. And I told him that I would continue to communicate closely with Education Vertical moving forward. So I am looking forward to him visiting us again in the future, getting to meet some of our students, going into the classroom. We'll see. Onto the budget. In the October board meeting, I will be able to review the entire first quarter. Up to this point, it's all going to be snippets and a snapshot, but not the full quarter. And then in February, we should have a real good understanding of how the first semester or the first half of the year, fiscal year, has gone. So I'll talk more about where we are currently. There's not any huge changes after 3 weeks. I will show you where we stand, and you can expect to see kind of the same slide. As you know, our appropriation is $17.4 million. 25% of that is how I'm monitoring our expenditures as time goes on to see if we're on track or not. So the operating costs per quarter should be around 500,000. And personnel should be 3.7 million. So that keeps us right in range. So I'm going to be tracking that pretty closely. Since July 1st through September 11th, I've gotten updated numbers from our CFO, Jeremy. And this is where we stand. We are on track. Operating core costs are currently right around 400,000, and then we're at 3.3 million for personnel. There are some expenditures that actually fell in this fiscal year that actually happened in the previous fiscal year. So that always does have a different impact, but I am monitoring payroll biweekly and keeping a close eye on these numbers. So the changes that you can see in the last 3 weeks, utilities have gone up. Our costs for SPD and IoT have gone up. Those are ongoing costs. We have not gotten the most recent bill for housekeeping as of yet. So you can see some of these numbers have remained pretty stagnant at this point. The increases are in food costs, SPD, IoT, and our utilities are the only changes that we're seeing at this point from the last board meeting. And again, in October, we'll see a real clear picture of the first quarter. So I am working closely with my leadership team to make sure that we're monitoring the budget. And of course, it's a challenge and we do make adjustments. Staff are doing more with less, but we are continuing to assess the particular areas and recognizing those specific areas of need so that it can be addressed in the next legislative session that handles budgeting. So there are some areas that we are managing quite well, and there are other areas that we recognize as need. So I will continue to follow this path, and I cannot thank my staff enough for the work they're doing. I recognize that we couldn't do it without them, so I just want to praise them for their work. As I mentioned previously, I'm not planning to touch donation or Medicaid funds unless absolutely necessary. And you can see that some of these funds are preventative maintenance for fiscal year 26. We had 750,000. And so there was 120,000 that was spent on our HVAC contract. We've had a lot of issues that have arisen. And so they are coming a couple times a week to repair those things. We don't have a person that specializes in HVAC systems on staff. So these repairs are being done by contractors. So you see that $130,000 less than what we previously had, and that's the reason behind that. Any questions about the budget? Again, we're on track and I am monitoring it closely. I'll continue to communicate with you and continue to work with my leadership team. At this time, I will invite the two principals up to follow up on the data that was presented last month. Amanda and Annette, the floor is yours. Thank you, Pam. So the first slide is, oh, I'm sorry, I should introduce myself. I'm Amanda, the principal for our elementary and ECE. The first slide is what we showed 3 weeks ago. The second slide represents the new information that you asked for. So with iRead, traditionally we have tested at 3rd grade. As of last year, the state increased that requirement to 2nd and 3rd graders. And 3rd graders are expected to pass. And we do have to have a meeting to determine if they can move on to 4th grade. We have a good cause exemption meeting. So now they have increased the grade levels that will be taking it. As I mentioned, last year we offered it 2 times a year. The 3rd offering was in the summer for summer school for those families that wanted to sign up. We had 5 families that signed up for summer school. The request was a couple of weeks ago to have this data. So the 2nd and 3rd grade passing rate last year for the state was 87%. Special education was at 65%. ISD was at 20% passing. And again, we are looking forward and excited to see how our 3rd grade group does this year, because they will be the first group that started in 2nd grade and that will continue to take it up through 6th grade as the new requirement asks. So we are looking forward to these scores because we know that they're gaining that ASL fluency and that first language foundation. So we do recognize that as students continue to move up in grade levels, we will see a huge increase in that passing rate. And if no questions, I will ask Annette to come up and continue.
Right, hello, good evening. My name is Annette Tavernese. I am the principal for middle school and high school, and I will talk about iLearn scores from 3rd grade to 8th grade. And I'll explain last month from THH, eligibility alone, and then the other populations. And the overall score. So the overall percentage is shown here in blue. This is 6th grade. There's 24 students total. 1 is above proficiency, 2 are at proficiency, and 2 are close, approaching proficiency. The rest are below. So this is 3rd grade. This is the current 3rd grade iRead score. So iLearn and iRead are very similar tests, and there are different types of assessments. There are 3 that are at proficiency and 3 that are approaching. 8th graders right now, we have 2 that are above proficiency, 0 at proficiency, and 2 that are approaching. And these are the overall scores. With math, That's on this slide. I'll show you English next. This is very similar percentages from the last slide. This section here, just as Amanda was saying, it takes about 7 years to catch up. And we're seeing that in 6th grade, 7th grade, more and more students are starting to blossom and really show what they know. So the middle schools students, as they understand language better, you're starting to see the progress here. 6th grade, they're closing that gap. Once they get older, they're really picking up quite a bit of language. So you see there's quite a few that are approaching proficiency here. So that covered English and language arts. This slide, you requested deaf, hard of hearing as an eligibility, plus other students with multiple disabilities. These are the scores from last year's iLearn. 15% ELA, that is the special education percentage across the state, and 10% overall is what we scored. But again, we just want to emphasize this is a good percentage here. 21% deaf, hard of hearing students alone, that's where they're at. And then 17% for math. And then we're trying to look about how we can improve these math numbers. The deaf, hard of hearing students scored higher than the state's special education average. You can see that in both of these categories. Any questions about iLearn? Yes.
Just a second, Lucy.
Thank you for providing this information. It helped me from doing it by hand. I appreciate it. And also, could we have a copy of that?
Sure,
Yeah,
no problem.
yeah, I mean, I kind of did it here, but it would just be so much nicer and it's cleaner. And I like, sometimes I carry this around with me when I come here. So I would appreciate it very much.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no problem.
And I also have one more question, comment. So at our last meeting, our agenda was packed. And after you had shared the information about the data, Kim, you started to make a comment that from the data you learned that we really need to work on the math. And I know you had just mentioned it. So could you expound on that a little bit and tell you what the data said about the math and what are you doing now?
Yeah, so that's where, that's my next step, is to look at what grade these students are and what area of math. Is it addition, subtraction, multiplication, division? And then I'll look at iLearn more closely at that point. Each student in each class will kind of, once we have the bigger picture, then we'll kind of hone in on those students, especially the bigger classes. We'll try to figure out where the students' weaknesses are and then support them of what specific skill they need to need some remediation for. Once we have them grouped and we're looking over the scores, then we can kind of approach it in that way. So I'm going to start with the macro level and then slowly go to the micro level to figure out where the weaknesses are.
And this is Kim, if I could add, we are looking at ELA and math, always looking how we can raise those scores. We want our students to do better. So looking at our resources, our curriculum, and then the Department of Education currently is reviewing math. They've made gains with the literacy component, and now we're looking at that math component. So I'm really looking towards the DOE and the materials that they're going to be recommending so that we can utilize that for our students. To continue to support them.
So Kim, when you're looking at those materials, do you still find that there's delays here at ISD because of your purchasing process that you talked about last time?
Yes. So we have limited resources for grade level students. So we also have language deprived kids. So we're trying to teach 7th grade math, but they're really on a 1st grade reading level, for example. So the math teacher has to figure out how to kind of express that language at their level, because we want to make sure the foundational skills are there too. We want to make sure they understand addition, subtraction, because you really can't jump further than that to decimals if they don't understand simple addition and subtraction. So they need to have those foundational skills in place first for them to catch up.
And really, there are 3 areas we're looking at. The core curriculum for general ed with mathematics, making sure that we have the correct core curriculum and what the DOE's guidance is on that. Then additionally, we do need more supports, which is what Annette was alluding to when we have students with language difficulty where they're in a 7th grade math class and they're at a 2nd grade math level. So those supplemental materials and curriculums for those students that may be 4, 5, 6 grade levels behind. So that is an area of struggle right now that we're looking at. Then additionally, the purchasing, yes. Last year, we went several months without a specific subscription. We had it, and then when it was time to renew it, the process was highly delayed due to contracting issues. A subscription is considered a contract basically, not materials. So it's a different process for that purchase request. And so we had a digital subscription, and then we had a gap from December through March until we were able to get that in use in the classroom again. So I am working with the education vertical to alleviate this issue because, a couple weeks is okay. A week is okay, but months on end, just because of the process with the state, is an ongoing dialogue that I am addressing. And I think that's something that I'll be looking at relatively soon. I need an individual like a math specialist who can provide those instructional strategies so we can comb through those materials to support our math teachers. But that's something that's going to come down the line when our budget allows for it. But right now, I'm just trying to look at what each division needs between education, student affairs, operations, and what things we can do to minimize the impact on our students and their success. But yes, I definitely am keeping that on my radar.
And thank you for this information. Much appreciated. It really helps me look at things. And Kim, when you just mentioned looking for a math specialist, to assist you with the math curriculum, is this somebody outside of who you currently have at ISD?
Well, it could be either way, honestly. Long term, I'd like to hire someone in that role to support our staff, so they would be part of our staff. It could be consultative support, but I would need to advertise for that position for a person who has that area of expertise. But it could be consult or a permanent staff member, either way.
I was just thinking if I knew anyone that might offer their time.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
This is Andy. I hate to bring this up again, but I feel like we're in a serious situation and, can you not just purchase it and ask for, forgiveness later with board approval? I mean, this bureaucracy that you have to work through is just ridiculous. And I'm just wondering, is that something we can do in? Can we ask you to get this later?
I may be the wrong person to ask because I typically do things and ask for forgiveness for permission. So I'm with Andy, but I also want to make sure that Kim follows appropriate channels in her new role. It's not that I don't want her to get in any trouble, but maybe not so early in her tenure as superintendent. I guess while I have the microphone, I will ask, what is the what's missing? I mean, we have teachers with math expertise. So what's the missing piece?
This is Annette. I strongly, again, I think some supplemental resources. The teachers have the core curriculum that they teach from, but they need to accommodate the students' needs. So for example, for the seventh grade, the seventh grade content areas, but then dealing with students with gaps in their foundation. So they're still struggling with addition and subtraction, and the teachers are supposed to teach decimal points. So it's like you're teaching two math skills at once. You're teaching what's missing, and then you're trying to catch them up to what content level they're supposed to be at. So that's just one example. Language deprivation impacts math just like it does with English, language arts, social studies, science. It really impacts them on all subjects. And you see that in the math area as well. So for example, dyslexia in math. There can be conflicts with understanding math problems as far as understanding the pattern that you recognize and how to address math problems, how you follow it. So skills that are missing. And then you have a specific class, and then with that specific teacher working with the specific group of students. So this year we're looking into all those things.
So it's more of a need for remedial support.
Yes. And I'm also planning to provide remediation during Oriole time, like we explained last month, that Wednesday and Thursday block, the homeroom. We have an assistant principal that's working on assigning students to match them with similar needs. That way they get additional resources, but also tutoring during that time. So that the students can be grouped with specific skills that all of them need to improve on top of teaching a regular math class. We want these students to have this during Oriole time.
Well, it's kind of the way I'm thinking about it. Is there an opportunity to reassign an existing faculty member to focus on these remedial needs to meet the need in the short term, addressing Andy's point about the urgency?
Well, with the number of teachers that we have currently, middle school math department is full. We have 2 math teachers, and they have a very full schedule, each of them. So.
And sorry to interject, Annette, but our teachers last year compared to this year, we have 12, 13 less teachers in the classroom through retirement, resignations, and layoffs. So we have very, a smaller number of teachers, and we are not able to hire at this moment. So that the teachers have a full course load. There may have been some teachers in the past that may have had an extra block that is available where we could have utilized them for remediation, supports, et cetera. In elementary, we have that curriculum specialist, but we don't anymore. And so that is not something, I see where you're coming from, but we're just not there yet. And the goal is to have a position like that. But right now, we have to work with what we have.
Any other questions? Okay. So IAM is a test for our students that are on the alternative diploma. So from 3rd to 8th grade is what I'm going to share this evening. Elementary, there's no students that take IAM, but there are 6 students in middle school, high school that do take this. For English language arts, we have 5 approaching and 1 below proficiency. And for math, all 6 students are at proficiency for the IAM test. That's it from the principals. Thanks for having us.
I'll be sharing a few updates in a variety of avenues this evening. As I mentioned, I believe it was our July school board meeting that we were looking to transition our police force to Capitol Police. So I wanted to give you an update of where we stand at this time. Before I go there, I do want to recognize Jan Bibbins, a police officer with our police force that recently retired after 50 years. I asked her to come this evening, but she was already going to be on vacation. So I really appreciate the loyalty and dedication that she's given our school. I had a good conversation with her. She's got quite a bit of institutional knowledge, and I wanted to make sure that was passed on so that we can continue the quality of service that we've been providing with our police force thus far. I have had, several meetings, but since July, I've only had 1 meeting since then. And that meeting presented a lot of questions. There was some good discussion that happened. There are statutes that need to be addressed because we're an agency and not a school. Looking at the school resource officer position, because we are an agency, not a school, that is a challenge. And we talked over how that could potentially work. Also, when we transition, will they be able to follow up and continue some of the current duties that our staff police officers do? We don't want those to stop just because we have a different police force. They will get an increase in pay. There are a lot of benefits to transitioning to the Capitol Police, but we want to make sure that our expectations remain the same. So through that dialogue, it seems that they are willing to maintain those same duties. But what I did find is that this won't happen as soon as I thought it would. It may be more like a year. And so in the past, I thought that was going to be a budgetary savings that we would reap. But it does not look like that will be coming to fruition anytime soon. Also, looking at the statute and how that impacts trainings that those police officers will have. We want to make sure they're here to protect the campus, of course, but we also want to make sure that they handle duties that an SRO would. So that is, and Capitol Police currently don't have those types of positions. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight for us to do this transition. There are pieces and parts that need to be ironed out prior to. And Governor Braun had appointed Julie Smith, the statewide school safety specialist. And I am planning on meeting with her so that we can talk about how we can be viewed as a school, how this safety specialist position will work. It's different than a police officer. And so what are those roles and duties? Should we have one at ISD? Would that individual become a liaison between the Capitol Police and our ISD police or our school resource officer? So looking at, do they handle emergency preparedness for us? Lockdown drills? Where does all of this fall? and making sure that plan is in place and who develops that plan. So there are a lot of logistics to be ironed out, and it's going to take some continued dialogue moving forward, continued meetings. But as of right now, we currently have 4 police officers on staff. We have Chief Scott Davis. And then we have Justin, Seth, and Jason. And so each one of them is assigned to a specific shift. So we do have a police officer on shift, and they come in Sunday and work through Friday afternoon. So we do have security through the week while students are here. If one of them were to resign, that could present a problem. But right now we do have 3 police officers plus Chief Davis to fill in those spots. Jeremy, our operations director, is keeping a close eye on that situation. And I just wanted to assure you that we do still have campus police and school safety is still a priority. Making sure that that happens while students are on campus, and the Capitol Police is still an option. And just making sure that we have those questions answered, and they have questions as well. So working through that process. Jeremy, is there anything I missed? No? Okay. Any questions about the ISD update on police? No? There have been some areas of need. We saw some gates were open when they were not supposed to be, so that's been addressed. There should be one entrance and exit just off 42nd Street. And I think there was a little bit of change in that procedure while the state fair was functioning, but now that it's closed, we do just have the gate on 42nd Street open, and then at the end of school is open as well for dismissal. Those 2 main gates at the front. So if anyone is hearing anything different about the access to campus, please let me know, because the only access should be coming off 42nd Street. I'm gonna jump down to housekeeping. SPD does have the request for reclassifying 4 positions. And we are waiting on that. And it's a challenge right now. The only cleaning that we're getting done is our bathrooms. Our staff are doing trash and they're cleaning the hallways. We have paraprofessionals, teachers, residential mentors who are stepping up and doing our trash for us, and some light cleaning. And I'm continuing to tell everyone it's temporary. We're working with SPD to get those positions, but it's another waiting game. And once those positions are approved, they'll be posted, and hopefully we'll be hiring at least 2 to 3 full-time positions for housekeeping. I am optimistic, but it's just that waiting game in the meantime, that staff are covering some areas in which they would not normally be taking care of. And they're already having an increased workload. And so that is just an additional piece of that. I am hoping by January that those positions would be approved, posted, interviewed, and hired. But I am looking forward to that opportunity of having our own staff in housekeeping. And I think that we'll get a lot more quality. When we have a contract, there can be some ups and downs with that. So I'm looking forward to that, and we're hanging in there until that happens. General athletics, education updates. Last week, we did have a senior event all day on Saturday. We had 13 seniors that were recognized in both volleyball, cheerleading, cross country, and football. This Saturday will be our homecoming game. And something for you to keep in mind, in January, we will have a national wrestling tournament, which was already a commitment we made several years ago prior to the budget cuts. So that has already been budgeted for that weekend because we will have some extra hours for staff that will be working, food, etc. And that happens the weekend after Martin Luther King Day. So that is the Willigan Wrestling Tournament. We're looking forward to that happening as well. With education, we did a meet and greet for our families with the principals at the end of August, beginning of September. And we had a pretty good turnout. Over 50% of the families came in. And then we had 40 families for elementary and then 25 for middle school, high school. So those are some general updates over the last 3 weeks. That concludes my superintendent's report.
I have a question for you. This is Andy. I just thought of something about housekeeping. Remember about a month, parents were talking about offering their services voluntarily to clean. Is that something that's still happening? Are you seeing more comments from parents? I remember seeing on Facebook comments about this. Are their parents willing to help out to clean? I think that's great.
I will have to follow up with my leadership team. I have not seen any comments on that. I've not been made aware. So if you know of those individuals, please do ask them to reach out. That's wonderful.
Yeah, if I can remember, just as a temporary solution.
Okay. One more item. Next month in October, I will talk more about first quarter budget expenditures and then also deaf mentor and school age mentor services. We are actually getting ready to offer Sky High training in October, the beginning of October. So Kendall Gonzalez is coordinating that and I'll be providing more information in October with where we are on that particular service.
Okay, thank you, Kim, for keeping us updated on those issues. Any board members have any questions? Should I move on to new business? Okay. Does anyone have a motion for new business? No? No new business to discuss. We'll move on. Do we have public comments? Diane Jones, if you'd like to come up.
Superintendent Collins, board members. My name's Diane Hazel Jones, and I am a CODA, a hearing child of deaf adults, as 2 of Andy's children are. And I was raised in an American Sign Language English home. My parents both graduated from ISD. In fact, my parents played basketball in this very room, which was the gymnasium many, many years ago. They were proud to be deaf, and they grew up in a time where there was no such word as ASL or deaf culture, but they embraced both. I eventually became a teacher of deaf children. I worked at ISD for 40 years. Some of my students are in the audience. And I worked 20 years in the old outreach, which thank you very much, because it sounds like outreach is coming back. And I worked on the early intervention team that worked with hearing families that had deaf babies. I currently teach future interpreters and future hearing advocates in the VU ASL Deaf Studies program, which is housed on the campus. And I'm one of their ASL English teachers and interpreters. And I worked under Ann Rifle when she was the chairperson of that program. So what brings me here today? I saw a photo on Facebook of Governor Braun visiting the School for the Deaf. And I was reminded of a story that my father told me when I was a little girl. So in 1934, my father was a senior here. And one day, the entire senior class walked out in protest. They walked over to the governor's mansion, which, do your directions, was at 45th and Meridian. Pretty close. They knocked on the door, and Governor McNutt came to the door and let them in. And they sat down and they talked with the governor about the fact that they were unhappy that none of the teachers at the School for the Deaf in 1934 were licensed. That next year, Governor McNutt started the process of making sure that every teacher was licensed. He was one of our advocates, and he was a friend. 67 years later, my memory is I was on a team led by deaf teachers and community members that spent many hours in our governor's office asking that the state of Indiana recognize American Sign Language as a language. In 1991, Governor Bayh and his team were our advocates and friends. You have no idea the impact that what we did in 1991 and what it has done throughout the world. We recognized ASL in 1991. Ireland just recognized Irish Sign Language 4 years ago. We started that here in the state of Indiana, in Fremont, California, and in Framingham, Massachusetts. Governor Holcomb was our keynote speaker at our graduation, I believe. And he invited the academic bowl champions to come to his office and celebrate our successes. He also made sure that live interpreters, real interpreters, were on television during COVID. He was an advocate and friend. Now, the composition of our school board is atypical. How they are selected is atypical, different. But for whatever reason, you all were chosen to be here in those seats. Well, there are 3 ways that hearing people serve the deaf community. And I know there's some VU students out there and they know those 3 ways. You can be an advocate, you can be an ally, or you can be an autist. So advocates and allies work alongside deaf people and children to support their goals. Deaf people lead those efforts. An example is our new superintendent and our team, the ISD team that is presenting to you every month. Deaf people lead those efforts, and we support them. Autists are hearing people who believe that they know what's best for deaf people and children, and thus make decisions for them, not alongside them. Each one of you on this board brings a unique paradigm to the table. And you have a unique opportunity to listen to these deaf leaders, these educators, either as an ally, an advocate, or an autist. At the board meeting last week, I observed these wonderful leaders stand up here and present data to you for over an hour and a half. I witnessed our diverse students share with you their hopes and dreams of working in the medical field someday. In my mind, I sat over there and I looked up and I thought, it's a simple message, 2 words: see us. See us. See what is in the hearts of deaf people and deaf children. All they were saying was, be our advocate, be our friend. Maya Angelou once said, "Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better." My hope is that as a school community, we continue to develop the connections with our legislators and each other so that we can continue to provide the resources that will empower the next generation of deaf students. Thank you.
Diane, thank you. And any comments? Okay. Any board member comments? Nothing? Okay. Okay, I want to mention something. Congratulations to the football team this last Saturday. A great victory. It was a good game against the Alabama School for the Deaf, and I saw a lot of teamwork amongst our school, plus the girls volleyball team. ISD did a wonderful job that day. And this Saturday, upcoming, there's an event that's very exciting. We're playing against the Fremont, California School for the Deaf, and they are coming for our homecoming game. Hopefully, board members are able to attend. So I'm ready to close, adjourn the meeting. Right now it's 5:52 p.m. Everyone have a nice evening. Thank you. Now, one more thing. Our next meeting is October 21st, and it's possible that we need to, some of us, will be here this next meeting and we'll have a discussion.
I won't be able to be here on October 21st as well. So it'd be nice if we can change that date. I just realized that. This is Andy.
Okay, well, we need to have a discussion about that, changing the date.
And hopefully we can just send an email and can say, yeah, we'll make sure Kelly emails everyone.
So myself, it looks like it's just you and I. Ed, were you gonna
Else
say
was
something?
saying,
Ed, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, if we're going to look at changing the date, can we do a doodle poll with proposed times so we can make sure that everybody can attend? I would hate to change the date to accommodate some people and have other people not be able to attend as a result.
Okay, yeah, we could do that.
and Andy's saying, oh, I love the doodle polls, man. I use those every day.
Anna, are you good with doodle polls? Just give it the thumbs up.
Thank you. Have a good evening.